Good afternoon. Ooh, whew. This isn't Desert Vista anymore. Good afternoon. Thank you, every single one of you, for coming today. As you may know, we had the district attorney and the captain at the time of Summerlin Commands back in March was Captain Sims, and they were here in March, and it was a terrific presentation. So I know today is going to be a terrific presentation. So I hope you brought your questions, and they will give you the answers. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to turn it over to District Attorney Stephen Wolfson.
Thank you so much, Mary. Can you all hear me pretty good? And can you see the screen okay? All right, good. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for having me out here again. I only live about 3 miles from here, and I've lived in that neighborhood for 28 years. So I feel like I'm home. I've been out here so many times over the years. So thank you again for having me out here. What we're going to do is I'm going to present a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to run through it pretty quickly. There's some material I want to cover. We've got Captain Joe out here, and he and I are going to kind of work off each other a little. At the very end, I'm going to take some questions, and let's just have a good time and have an informative meeting. But before I start, I want to recognize someone very special. She is former Congresswoman and now candidate for Mayor of Las Vegas, my good friend, Shelley Berkeley. Are there any other special dignitaries that I haven't noticed? Well, you're all kind of special, I'll say that. Okay, so let's move forward. The title of my presentation is Safe Communities, Where We Were, Where Are We Now, and Where Do We Need to Go? Clicker, Okay, we have a technical difficulty. Where's my technician? Cue Mary. Was I hitting the wrong one?
No, down arrow.
Oh, down, I was hitting up. Okay, so first a little bit about my background, and some of you know me and have heard this before, so I'm going to run through this stuff. 1980, I started my legal career here in Las Vegas in the DA's office 43 years ago as a law clerk, fresh out of law school. Moved here from San Diego thinking I'd go back to San Diego. Who doesn't want to live in San Diego? But I fell in love with Las Vegas. Was a deputy DA for 5 years, federal prosecutor for a couple of years. In 1987, started a family, went into the private practice of law, and practiced criminal defense for 25 years. During this time, wow. Okay. During this time, I got the itch to serve the public again. So 20 years ago, I ran for the Las Vegas City Council and served the city of Las Vegas with Mayor Oscar, what's his name? Goodman for 8 years. Fantastic time. I think we did a lot of good things. We did a lot of development downtown, the Smith Center for the Performing Arts, World Market Center, the Premium Outlet Mall, etc. But then in 2012, an opportunity came up for me to be the district attorney here in Clark County. I was appointed to this position coming up on 12 years now, and I've been elected and re-elected 3 times. Thank you for your vote. I'm married to retired Judge Jackie Glass, 38 years. In fact, in about a month, it'll be 39 years of marriage. I like to say she's got 39, I've got 39, to total 78 years of marriage. We have 2 grown daughters, Rachel, who's a stand-up comic / actress, and Rebecca, who is a Las Vegas city attorney who may make an announcement real soon that she's going to be running for a judgeship in the Las Vegas Municipal Court, which is this jurisdiction. So watch for an announcement. Okay, enough about me. I always like to know who my audience is. I do this every time. So raise your hand if you've lived in the Las Vegas area for 5 years or less. A lot of new people, look at that. 10 years or less. 15 years. 20 years. See, the hands are getting fewer now. Who of you have lived here 25 years? Look at that. 30 years in the Las Vegas area. There's about 5 of you. I thought you were only 30 years old. What about 35 years? Look at that. A few of you, 40 years. Anybody lived in the area? Come on, raise your hand up. I saw that. There's actually a few of you that have been here 40 years. Anybody 45 years? Well, the point is, look at the diversity here in the Las Vegas area, and in particular, your Sun City community. A lot of you have just been here a few years, and many of you have been here many, many years. The DA's office, we have 4 divisions: civil, family support, juvenile, and of course our criminal division. The criminal division is the one that gets most of the attention. If you read about it in the newspaper or see it on TV, that case is being handled by the Clark County DA's criminal division. 750 employees, 180 lawyers in the DA's office, the largest law firm in the state of Nevada. Can you imagine managing 180 lawyers? I mean, 179 of them have huge egos. But that's what I do. I manage people, I manage lawyers. What we're here to talk about today, which I think is on most people's mind, is my criminal division. A typical criminal case starts with the police. Police are notified of a crime, they investigate, they arrest, they make the decision whether or not to forward to a prosecutor's office. They have to determine whether there's enough evidence in their opinion to send it over to my office. Misdemeanors in the city go to the Las Vegas City Attorney's office. Felonies and misdemeanors in the county go to the DA's office. Sun City, Summerlin, is in the city of Las Vegas. So all of you who are drinking and driving, and I know that's none of you, if you do it out here in Sun City, the case is going to go into the Las Vegas City Attorney's office. But all the big cases, all the felonies go to my office, the DA's office. Cases are submitted to us for consideration. I have an intake screening division. I have 10 lawyers. That's how large we've grown since I moved here 43 years ago. We have 10 lawyers. All they do is screen cases. We receive 250 cases a day from law enforcement. That's anything from the misdemeanor all the way up to the felonies and the murders and everything like that. If there's sufficient evidence, we approve charges. If there's insufficient evidence, there's not enough, we deny the case. We approve about 75% of the cases. A complaint is prepared, it's assigned to a prosecution team. Of my 180 lawyers, 110 are in my criminal division, 10 in the juvenile division, and we're going to get to a juvenile case in a little while. Cases are assigned to an individual prosecutor. I have the general litigation teams that do the general kinds of cases. But in the last 15 years, Las Vegas has gotten so large, we have to specialize. When I started in the DA's office, we had no specialty teams. Now we have specialty teams. I have a homicide team, 10 of my best lawyers that prosecute the homicide cases. A gun team, do all the gun cases, a gang team, a DUI team. I have 5 lawyers that do nothing but DUI cases. Think about it. That's how many DUI cases we have. Domestic battery. I'm sorry to say, I have 5 lawyers that do nothing but domestic battery cases. So don't be hitting anybody, okay? But, you know, I make a joke of it because I'm a funny guy. But that's how many domestic battery cases we have, that I have to have 5 lawyers to do that work. Once a case is approved, like I said, about 75%, it proceeds through the criminal justice system. You can see what happens. They start in the justice court with preliminary hearings and trials. The most important cases move up to the district court, our trial court. We either have a trial or a plea bargain, and then sentencing. So let's talk about that for a second. A trial versus a plea bargain. That says trail by jury, Monica. We've worked on this for 6 years. Well, trail by jury, why not, right? Trial by jury. An important factor is we only do about 125 to 150 jury trials a year. So think about it, less than 1% of cases actually go to a jury trial, which means the other 99% plus are plea bargained. And that's true in any major city in America. Plea bargaining is very important. It's an essential part of our system. How many people think plea bargaining is a good idea? Raise your hand. Oh, come on. How many think it's a bad idea? Be honest. Okay, you're both right, okay? Generally speaking, we have to do plea bargains because we have so many cases. But what does that mean? That means somebody pleads guilty and they get punished for their guilty plea. When they plead guilty, we avoid all the appeals that can last years and years and years. When they plead guilty, there's no appeals, okay? We can't give everybody a trial. We don't have enough resources to do it. So remember, a plea bargain is when somebody pleads guilty. If we charge somebody, and we're going to get to a case in a little while, with 14 felonies, and they plead to 3 and go to prison for 25 years, that's pretty good, okay? Victim witness participation throughout the prosecution, very important. When a case is filed, a victim is provided notice by our office. This is part of Marcy's Law. Victims' rights. If a case is proceeding to a hearing, our victim and witnesses will be subpoenaed to court. It's important to respond to subpoenas and appear in court should your testimony be necessary. Without you, we can't prosecute a case. So if you get a subpoena, please follow the instructions and participate in the process. When a defendant is convicted, the victim may also speak at sentencing to explain how the crime impacted them. Okay, let's talk about where we were. October 1st, commonly known as 1 October, 6 years ago. Deadliest mass shooting in history. 60 people were murdered. Now, a lot of times when you hear news reports, you hear about 58. Yes, 58 people died either that day or within a few days. But within a few months to a year or so after that, 2 other people died as a result of what happened at 1 October. 60 people were murdered by one person. I'll never forget, Sheriff Joe Lombardo came up to me that morning and said, the bad guy is dead, there's not going to be a criminal case. He committed suicide after he killed 60 people, 900 injured. What is a mass shooting? The reason I bring this up is there are different definitions. The FBI defines a mass shooting as an active shooter engaged in or attempting to kill people in a populated area. Kind of a general description. USA Today, 4 more people are hit with gunfire. Every Town for Gun Safety, this is the most nationally recognized organization for gun safety. They define a mass shooting as 4 or more people are shot and killed. Now, you probably can't see this, it's a terrible slide, but you see at the top, Las Vegas, Nevada, 60 people died. The Pulse nightclub, Orlando, Florida, 49, 32, 27, and you can see about mass shootings in this country. It's terrible. It's terrible. George Floyd, 2020. There is some audio that goes along with this, but it's really the video that tells 1,000 words. Now, this is, I think, an 8-minute long video. I'm not going to show you 8 minutes. But what I want you to notice is that officer on the right with the blue shirt who's kneeling down on the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes. This is when Mr. Floyd was saying repeatedly, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." That incident changed police in America in many, many directions, and many of them positive. That officer and many of his colleagues are in prison. Police officers are no different than the rest of us. They're human beings. And sometimes they may make mistakes, and if they make mistakes, they have consequences like you or me. This is from Minneapolis. Officers fired over fatal arrest. Anger ignites Minneapolis. This is what was occurring after the Floyd incident. Officers charged with murder. Law enforcement changed forever. I'm going to talk about a few things. And Captain Joe, if you want to chime in here, please do, okay? Because this is your bailiwick.
Absolutely.
Changes to tactics and use of force. 30 states have enacted some kind of police reform, more stringent standards for using certain tactics, and the outright banning of others. Bans on techniques that restrict blood flow to the brain or restrict the airway. That's what happened to Mr. Floyd. The airway was restricted. Restrictions on shooting at fleeing suspects. Less lethal restrictions. Police came under heavy scrutiny. Legislation targeting less lethal gear like tear gas and rubber bullets. Are there alternatives to using lethal force? That's the discussion. Funding cuts. In Austin, Texas, where my oldest daughter now resides, the police department's budget was reduced by 1/3, redirecting over $150 million to social services. Defund the police. We've all heard that, right? I'm totally against defunding the police. We should increase the funding of police, but this is a... And the first thing we need to do is to give Captain Joe a raise. What do you say?
That's right.
The Los Angeles Police Department, $150 million cut to its budget. This is a reaction to the George Floyd incident. Rethinking mental health and other calls for service. This is so important. And Joe, Captain Joe, I invite you to chime in just a second. 50%, whatever the percentage is, 60, 70% of the people that police come into contact with are suffering from some mental health problem. You agree, Captain?
100%. And our first Tuesday is going to be here in a couple weeks, November 7th. Thank you. And we're going to tackle this issue a little bit. We're going to be bringing in the City of Las Vegas's MORE team, which is they're like a homeless outreach team. They pair up with us. The county has a similar team, but for purposes of our first Tuesday here, since we are in the city, we're going to bring their team in, and they pair with our COP team to address these homeless issues that occur all over town, really, and around the country. Providing mental health services. That's the root, that and drugs. Those are the root causes of all this homelessness.
Yes, thank you. And, keeping in line with increasing the funding for police, Mary, you're going to send a hat around to ask people to donate? Okay. And finally, this is kind of, getting a little technical, but qualified immunity. Right now, police officers have certain immunities for actions during the course and scope of their employment. There are some states, Colorado has moved to eliminate that. In other words, less protection for officers that perform their jobs. Effect of Floyd on Las Vegas. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting Officer Shea Michelanis. Did you know him, Joe?
Yes.
At all? Okay. Mm-hmm. But as a result of the Floyd incident with the riots in major cities across the country, we had our problems here too. And Officer Shea Michelanis was shot, and I believe he's paralyzed from the neck down, but he's still around. In fact, he made an appearance just in the last few weeks at some metro event. Incredible. He was shot during the night of one of the protests, as well as one of the other protesters who failed to obey police commands, was walking around the streets of downtown Las Vegas with 3 guns and failed to heed the demands of the police officers, and they were forced to shoot and cause that man to lose his life. Where are we now? Criminal justice reform. Notice I put reform in quotes. You know, a lot of politicians talk about reform, reform, reform. What does reform mean? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Abolish the police or support the blue. I submit some of the changes were needed. De-escalation and respect for the sanctity of life. Metro maintains a policy of de-escalation. Dealing with people in crisis isn't easy. Mental health, drugs, alcohol, and emotions. Captain Joe, you want to chime in just for a second?
Yes, so like DA Wolfson said, a lot of changes actually came, and they were for the better when it came to what happened with the George Floyd incident. And one of those things was we've always focused on de-escalation, and we always had sanctity of life, obviously, but they weren't really put into our use of force policy in words. It was always, we always had that, but we actually put that and we policized that. So that's one part. And then also, again, with de-escalation comes, comes an area where we don't, when we do this, when we go into a call with de-escalation in mind, we're not thinking force first. We're thinking ways to not use force, ways to get out of this where we can help this person who's obviously having some type of crisis. And so, not to say that we're not being safe by doing this, but this actually helps us out because we're making sure that this person is cared for, and we're making sure that we don't get hurt as well. So this has saved, I believe, countless numbers of lives by our new policies and the way we approach things, for both for us and for the people we're dealing with.
Thank you. What is de-escalation? Like Captain Joe said, decreasing the use of force against civilians by teaching officers techniques to slow things down, use time, space, and communication to find an alternative to unnecessary force. 20 years ago, they're kicking doors down and taking names, right? Now it's like, wait a minute, let's talk about this. Let's see if we can de-escalate. Let's see if we can use something besides deadly force. And it's working. More lives are saved. More officers' lives are saved. Sanctity of human life goes hand in hand. Simply put, respect the value of human life, and deadly force should be employed in only the most extreme cases. Here's another one, bail reform in quotes. Hot topic. There's that word reform again. Who should be released from jail and who shouldn't? This is a difficult one. Guiding principles, flight risk and or danger to the community. That's what judges look at. If the person's a flight risk, in other words, they're not going to come back to court, or they pose a danger, then they should be held with no bail or high bail. Judge makes the oftentimes difficult decisions. The easy decisions are the very serious crime, the serial repeat offender, let's have a high bail or no bail. Easy decision, non-serious crime, no priors, release without bail or a small bail. It's the ones in the middle that cause judges to sleep at night. Now, I know most of the judges. After working in this community for so long, my wife was a judge for 10 years. I respect the difficult job they have. But recently, in the last number of years, we've elected more judges that are a little bit more lenient, in my personal opinion, by letting too many people out of jail, either on no bail or low bail. That's my personal opinion. Other reform, you want to clap? Go ahead, clap. Here's an interesting topic, creation of the Resort Corridor Court, crime on the Strip. Specialized court to focus on reducing crime on the strip. We have a specialized judge, specialized prosecutors in my office, and defenders. The Resort Corridor Court is working. Why did we do it? Look at these headlines. Las Vegas Strip stabbing suspect told police he thought showgirl impersonators were laughing at him. So he stabbed 8 people, killing 2 of them. This is just a year ago. Police arrest suspect in deadly shooting. This is a couple of months ago. Deadly shooting on Sahara Avenue. Ex-husband arrested for murder after woman's body found on Strip. 5-time felon arrested on Las Vegas Strip for fraud, forgery. Okay? A bunch of us got together a year ago and said, crime on the Strip is too high, we need to do something about it. So we created this new court with specialized judges, prosecutors, defenders. It's working. Crime on the Strip is down. It's working in another way. The employees. We have thousands of people, some of you perhaps, that work on the Strip. You want to feel safe. When you go out to your car after work, you want to feel safe. So it's not only the apprehension of the criminals and treating them like they should in a specialized court, but it's the protection of our tourists, and you folks are Las Vegas residents. Here's a couple of things. This is from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I believe everything they say. Stealing and leaving destruction in their wake. Defund the police, that's the first headline, may go down as the most misguided and foolish political slogan in American political history. Criminal justice reform is a noble cause if done properly. Taking victim blaming to an absurd new low. City governments used to stop crime by apprehending thieves. Chicago has a different strategy. Let the perps roam free while going after the companies that make products people steal. As some of you may know, some of the more liberal and progressive, and I hate that word progressive, because to me, progressive means progress. Who doesn't like progress, right? But the progressive term in the area of criminal justice is misused. Look at what happened to the DA in San Francisco. He got recalled. Look at what happened to the DA in Los Angeles. He survived 2 recall elections. Then we have DAs in Philadelphia, Chicago, other major cities that have instituted reforms that are causing crime to go up. I said during my last campaign in 2021 and 2022 that I would never let Las Vegas become like California. Okay, where do we need to go? Whoops. The pendulum seems to be swinging back. The pendulum from a few years ago with all these reforms. The history of criminal justice in the US is often described as a pendulum, swinging back and forth between strict punishment, war on drugs in the 70s and 80s, and lenient rehabilitation. California is the perfect example. They used to be tough on crime. Attitudes have changed in the last 20 years. Penalties have been reduced. Felonies became misdemeanors. Early releases of convicted criminals. Time off for good behavior. Liberal DAs get recalled. Result, higher crime. Like I just said, I will not let that happen as long as I'm the DA here in Clark County. What do we need to do? Stay vigilant, stay involved, communicate with your elected officials. You have legislators that represent you, senators, what's the other side? Assembly, God, drew a blank. You have your United States, your federal elected officials. Communicate with them, send them emails, tell them how you feel. Okay, we're winding down now. This is the fun part. I call this hot topics, updates. Tupac Shakur, 27 years later. Raise your hand if you know who Tupac Shakur is. Wow, I'm impressed. Tupac Shakur, a rapper, and he had some other talents. I mean, I actually did a little research on this guy, and he had some pretty interesting talents. He was gunned down on the corner of Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard 27 years ago. This case has been under investigation for 27 years. We always kind of knew who did it, but just thinking who did it, knowing who did it, isn't evidence. We need to have evidence to go into a court of law to prosecute somebody. Finally, just in the last couple of years, and actually few months, Detective Cliff Mogg from Las Vegas Metro, who just retired, was the assigned detective this last few years and put the whole case together to bring to my office for me to make a decision whether to charge Dwayne Keefe D. Davis with the murder of Tupac Shakur. You know, I thought long and hard about this, and I get my people together and we talk about, you know, what's the right thing to do? Some people say 27 years, too little, too late. Who cares 27 years later? I want justice. I want to do the right thing. We had enough evidence to charge Mr. Davis with murder, and we did. This case is getting more publicity than O.J. Simpson. I was warned, get ready for the emails. I think I got 40 emails within 24 hours of the arrest. I was also on CNN live a couple weeks ago. Raise your hand if you've ever been on live national television. Come on, Congresswoman. It's scary. That's how big of a case this is. So I invite you to watch this case and follow it. It's very interesting. Okay, here's a good one. Teenage murder bicyclist. A 16 and 17-year-old chose to go on a little rampage one day. The first thing they did was run into a bicyclist, ran him over, didn't kill him, he survived. Then a couple hours later, they bumped into and ran into a car. That person wasn't injured. Then they switched roles. The passenger became the driver became the passenger, and then they saw Mr. Probst, 74-year-old retired police chief, I think, out of California. And you've all seen the video. Raise your hand if you've seen the video of them coming behind, and the passenger who's filming him with his smartphone said, "Hit his ass." And the driver did just that, ran into him, he rolled over the car and was killed. They weren't caught right away, but they were caught. The driver was caught actually within a short period of time. The passenger, Metro, had to do a little bit more work and did a great job capturing the passenger. They're both charged with 14 crimes, 13 felonies, including murder with the use of a deadly weapon. And I don't know if you saw the news broadcast these last couple of days. They were in court yesterday. And, you know, they've got some interesting attitude, a couple of punks. You know, I'm the DA. I'm not supposed to say things like punks and assholes and shit like that. Forgive me. No, they are going to receive Clark County justice, I promise you. It's not me, it's the great work of Metro. And I've got great prosecutors that make me look good in court, let me tell you. Okay, the final one, I titled it Queens Ridge Terrorized. This was from a few months ago where I think it's actually 6 or 7 gang members from LA came to Las Vegas and terrorized a bunch of people in the Queens Ridge neighborhood as well as Henderson. And they got caught and they're all in jail. But one couple, one Asian couple in particular, I think in their 70s, they took the head of one of these nice senior citizens and was dunking it in, I don't remember if it was the toilet or the bathtub. And then they beat the poor husband up pretty badly. Now, this was a few months ago. Well, he just passed away about 30 days ago. So we originally charged them with many, many felonies, and we just added the charge of murder with use of a deadly weapon. So And I promise you there's going to get justice as well. Okay, this is the most fun part, and I invite you to include Captain Joe. I'm open for questions. I love questions. Do we have a microphone, Mary? We do. Okay.
Can you guys see me?
Who's first? Oh, this will be a good one. She has a great name.
What is her name?
Mary.
Oh,
Oh.
As long as we're mentioning names, I wanted to ask about Paula Davis and Giovanni Ruiz, how that trial is, or if it's ever coming to trial.
the names are familiar, but I don't know which case that is. Which case is that?
She was the UNLV student, that he was the PhD, the boyfriend, and this was September.
So he
about-
was the I'm going to say elderly professor kind of thing? Am I
No,
mixing that
this
up with
was
something?
a
Do you know which one this is?
21-year-old and a 19-year-old 4 years ago in September.
And these,
And she was found by the father in the
Yeah.
van that she was in. The rape,
I thought,
the rape murder.
what, I think this was the one that, so they lived in the southeast area of town, and I thought did they ever catch him? The dad was caught, right? But I thought
No, this is the boyfriend that they know did it.
this wasn't the one where she was
Gio-
burned and.
No.
No, okay,
No.
this is a different, okay, different one
so
then.
I
okay.
apologize, Mary.
Sorry.
You know, I have a lot of cases across my desk, and I get briefed on a lot. I don't recall the facts of that one, but if you'd like to send me an email
Okay.
tomorrow, just giving me 1 or 2 paragraphs, I'll look into it and get back to you.
Okay,
Fair
thank
enough?
you. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'll go here, there, and there.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I just have a quick question. Is it true there's no statute of limitations on murder?
Yes,
That's why we,
it's easy.
yeah.
Well, that's why on Tupac Shakur, here we are 27 years later.
Who was over here? All right, well, hold on. And then I'll be to you.
I have a question about the judges. We vote for judges. How do we find, where can we find information? How many people here know who they're voting for?
Okay, the simple answer is become educated. I don't
How?
think we do enough to educate you in everything, not just judicial races. I mean, you get plenty on president and all that stuff, but the lower ballot races, the judges and things like that, I don't think we do a good enough job. So, part of the responsibility is you as voters. Reach out. There are forums. A lot of the judges, I guarantee you, will be out here in the next few months. Guarantee it. Okay, because I've been out here with the judges during campaign season. Do a little research. The internet is a wonderful thing.
I do, and it takes time.
Okay?
No one else I know does what I do.
You're right, but that's the fault of the voter, if you will. Okay? It goes both ways. I think society and the government and even the private sector have to do more to educate you, but you as well have to try. Okay? Here's another thing. Ask a friend. Ask somebody who's in the legal system, who appears in front of judges. Ask them for their opinions, but always ask more than one person. Ask a few people, because you're going to get a variety of opinions. I guarantee you in the next 6 to 12 months, there are going to be forums out here where you're going to have 10, 20, 30, 40 candidates coming out here. Okay? Congressman Berkeley.
Steve, we do a lot of events together, so I hope you don't mind, but I would respectfully respectfully disagree with that last answer. In 2020, there were 20 some odd judges on the ballot. Now, I've been practicing law since 1977. I went through that list. I called my ex-husband, who's been practicing law even longer than I have, called my son, who's with the public defender's office, and even with all of that, and thinking I know everybody in town, there were a few names on the ballot that I could not identify for love nor money or anybody else that I called. So
I love you, Shelley Berkeley, but here's what I'm going to say. The filing for office is in January. So by the third week of January, you're going to know who's running. The primary is until June. That gives you 5 months to, here's the names of the people. It'll be in the newspaper. You've got 5 months to do some research. I mean, there's a lot of them. That's the problem, and I agree with you there. But that's all the more reason to do the research. You got plenty of time.
I don't disagree, and I think it is up to the voters to be informed. But on the other hand, I very much sympathize with that woman because I've been practicing law since '77 and didn't know some of those names. And
Yeah.
after they got elected, I still didn't know who they were.
Let's be honest, a lot of times when we go to the ballot and, it's election day, you go down, you don't know who they are. Hey, that name sounds good. Hey, that's my daughter's name, Okay? Just remember the name Wolfson and Berkeley, okay? It's pretty easy. I was just told that you're going to invite they're going to come whether you invite them or not, okay? No, but it's great. You should have more than one, though. And you folks have a great communication system with what's it called, the Link magazine? Yeah, tell your neighbor, tell a friend. More questions?
I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I actually have a couple questions. The first one, almost every night on the news, we hear about another shooting someplace in the Las Vegas area. Fortunately, not a lot of that stuff up here, but I'm suspecting some of it's down on the Strip and, maybe some of it's gang-related and stuff. But is the zone that you've created around the Strip helping with that problem or that issue?
You want to try this? He's talking about the resort corridor.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Let's put it this way. So,
they're almost all over the area.
Well,
I mean,
here's
it's pretty spotty.
here's what I will tell you. So, from my perspective, I have Summerlin Area Command. I love it up here. So, different animal completely than the Strip. The Strip, you got to remember, the Strip is a small but highly concentrated. So, by having specialization in a certain area like that, that definitely makes an effect for sure. If you go down there, I don't get out there that often. As a local, we generally try not to go down there too often, but a lot of changes have taken place down there over the years. I've been here since '98, and that place just looks unrecognizable to me. But it's all for the economic good. It's the economic engine that runs this state. So we need to protect it in all ways, right? So just to get to your question, basically, yes, I think from a police perspective, it works very well. We put a lot of effort into it, a lot of partnership with the district attorney's office when we put that thing together. And you really, from a police side of things, you can't walk down that more than 20 feet on the Strip and not run into a cop. I mean, you really, we saturate it that much down there. And also, too, you probably can't can't go more than 5 or 10 feet without being on a camera.
Like now.
Yes.
Yeah, my second question is really a little closer to home. So my insurance agent calls me the other day and says, guess what? Your rate's going up 25 or 30% this next year. And I said, in 1 year? And she said, yeah, you live in Las Vegas, and insurance rates are going out of sight, just crazy. And I said, well, how come? What's going on with this? And she said, well, drivers and people here in Las Vegas are nuts. And I'm sure it affects everybody in this neighborhood, but she really didn't have a good explanation. And I just wonder what you guys are doing to help with those issues.
Yeah,
I'm glad you took that
Yeah,
one.
no, I got you. No, yeah, the scientific answer, drivers are nuts, right? So, from an insurance, it's a business decision that they make. Rates are determined by a number of factors, right? So, one of them is the stolen vehicle rate. Not gonna lie to you, we're up we've talked about this many, many times since I've been here. We're up as a whole in Las Vegas, and we're up in Summerlin for stolen vehicles. And a lot of that had to do, obviously, again, with Hyundai and Kia challenge. It had a lot to do with that. So the way we've been combating that, and it's working, I can tell you that. You know, I'm not a big numbers guy. You know, yes, you have to quantify how things are going and whatever else. I like to look at things from snapshots, a little, you know, we do what's called a 28 day. So for the last 4 months now, we've been going down in stolen vehicles, which is great. What we're doing is working. The number one thing that we've done is really educate people on stolen vehicles, educate how you can make yourself less of a target, especially with Hyundais and Kias. They've come out with solutions, software solutions, anti-theft type devices. When we put the club out there, that was before they had the actual digital device in their the ignition. Those things have helped tremendously. You know, burglaries, home break-ins, things like that. All of those, again, education pieces. We're out there, we patrol, you know, presence is always a big thing, sure. But keeping, you know, hardening your target, let's call it target hardening. Cameras, locking your door. You'd be surprised. People leave their doors open. You know, and that makes me, to me, that, you know, they feel safe enough where they'd like to leave their, you know, their doors open. Sure, you know, but, you know, in this day and age, not really advisable, because people, you know, that's just, it's an easy target. But again, with the insurance rates, those are the factors really that are involved in it. But like I said, I can tell you that stolen vehicle rates are going down exponentially up here in Summerlin. So,
Captain Darrow, over here, Mary.
oh, there you are.
I was told by our insurance agent that one of the reasons also was the rate of catalytic converter thefts, and that had a big effect on insurance rates for car insurance. Sure. Any of you were signed up for the smoke alarm program that happened last Saturday with the Red Cross? Raise your hand. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people were upset because they got started late. Any idea why they got started late? They loaded up their truck with all their ladders and their smoke detectors and all their gear and everything else, and they came back the next morning and someone had stolen the catalytic converter off their truck. So it is still happening. I know there's some new laws.
Yes.
So if you could enlighten us on the catalytic converter situation, that might help.
Well, there's a new law that I believe made it a felony and increased the penalties for those, and there's stepped up enforcement and prosecution.
Yes.
In fact, I believe there was an effort to make it a crime for the people that are purchasing the converters, but I don't know if that passed. I don't remember.
I don't think that
Yeah.
part of it passed. There's always been laws on the books for scrap yards that actually take stuff in it. And in reality, we've got legitimate scrap yards here, and they've done their part. So it isn't here locally, it's out of state. A lot of the catalytic, like the metals that they're getting from the catalytic converters, out of state, out of country. So in Nevada, we pretty much got it locked up. It moves. The product is moving out.
So I have a pet peeve. One of my pet peeves is speeders. So I'm going to use an expression. I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't. But it's an expression that we've all heard and used over the years. I drive like an old lady, okay? Or an old man, I don't know. But I do. I drive the same freeway from Town Center and Summerlin Parkway on Summerlin Parkway to the 95 into downtown for 28 years, back and forth. And I drive 55, 60, 65, depending on the traffic, and people are just flying by me. You're shaking your heads, you know what I'm talking about. So our legislature in 2021, because we have a fairly liberal, progressive legislator, and some of them are my friends, they passed a law that decriminalized traffic tickets. So now if you get a traffic ticket, you're not going to go to jail, and if you don't pay the fine, You know, maybe they give you a little community service. Instead of increasing enforcement on our roads, they lessen the penalties. I don't get it. I like the idea in California, now maybe you don't like it because it's, what is it called, Uncle Sam, where if you speed, that computer catches you and you get a ticket. Let's do it here. Who would like that? The only people that didn't raise their hand are the speeders, right? Okay, another question, sir?
Yes, first of all, this is my main question, but I've noticed on the Summerlin Parkway too, and also on Smoke Ranch, sometimes someone will be speeding and come up right behind you and expect you to move over. It's very, reckless as far, if I understand correctly. So that's an area where I'd like to see stiffer enforcement and penalties for outright reckless driving. My question builds on the earlier question on researching judges, because what I do is when I have my ballot, I research the candidates. I don't vote by party, but I do some research on the candidates for local, state, and federal offices. But when it comes to judges, I've even gone to I've looked the judges up on the web, and there's very little there. And unless a judge has been prominently in the news, favorably or unfavorably, I'm at a loss to find data. So for some of the races, I've had to just leave it blank because I had no information. Do you have any suggestions? I mean, we can research, but I tried to do it on the web and I couldn't find very much.
Well, what I would do is what I said before is, the filing is in January. So let's say February 1st, you can find out who's filed, both the incumbents and the challengers. Start your research on the internet, but forums like this are the best. Because, everybody puts out the positive stuff. When they're a candidate, I did this, I did that, I'm the greatest, vote for me. But seeing them in person and asking them the difficult questions. Where do you sit on gun violence, and what are you going to do about it as a judge? Those are the kinds of questions you ask, and then watch their reaction. I have to make decisions on a fairly regular basis of how to resolve some of these high-profile cases. You know what I do? I go to court, and I sit in the audience, and I watch the defendants. I watch their body language, I watch their attitudes, their demeanor, because it tells me something. So when you're trying to decide whether to vote for this person or this person, meet them in person. Ask them the tough questions and kind of evaluate them. So I'm kind of answering your question in different ways. Take the time to do the research, come to forums like this, and there's events all over the county for months. You don't have to just stay in Sun City. There are, you know what I would do? Here's another great idea. There's a couple of primary political consultants in town, Tom Letizia and Dave Thomas. Reach out to them. What events are going on? And go to some of the events where the candidates are out here in this general area. That was a brilliant idea, wasn't it? Say again? Tom Letizia, and if you send me an email, I'll give you their names and phone numbers, and Dave Thomas, and there's others. Because they know where their candidates are going, and you want to go there to those events.
My question is, you're probably going to roll your eyes in the back of your head at this point, but one of the forms of communication within the community is Nextdoor. So I see a lot of posts. I had my cameras, I've got the picture of the kid or the person that broke into my car, that stole my car. The car's been found, there's fingerprints, we got his picture, and nothing's done. It seems as though the criminals have a free pass anymore. And as a senior living in this community, I don't feel safe.
Okay.
Do I get a gun? They scare the hell out of me. Is that what I need to do? I mean, I got the cameras, but if you're not going to do anything with my pictures, what good are they?
Okay, let me first address the fact that you do not feel safe. I take that very, very personal because this is my area command, okay? So with that, I will tell you that I'm very concerned, okay? That's kind of my gauge on how I see how I'm doing as a captain. If you don't feel safe, then I'm failing, right? So to get to your second part of that now, a lot of different facets here, okay? What I want to suggest to you is get with my guys after, okay, so I can take a second look and see what you're talking about. Now remember, fingerprints sounds like CSI, okay? This doesn't, just because we have prints or even a picture doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, we're going to get the guy. A lot of factors go into play. The quality of the prints, if they get run, sometimes they're not quality good enough to actually run them through anything. Prints might not be in the system. Best prints in the world. If the guy's never been booked, if he's never, you know, if he doesn't have prints anywhere, doesn't pop up, we don't have anything. A picture, sure, we can put it out there. But again, just because a picture's there, we still don't know who that person is. You know, when we get pictures like that, we will send it to anybody that's in our station, obviously, because sometimes we have, you know, we have prolific thieves. Sometimes the guys, sometimes we do get lucky. But for you specifically, I want you to get with these guys after. Give them your information. Let me look. We'll look and find out what's going on with the case. Okay?
Did you actually have well,
Did you make a report?
No, it wasn't me. I'm saying I read this.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Here now.
a friend told me that a friend told
Okay.
me.
Okay. Here's the other thing I will caution as well. Okay. Next door neighbor app. I love it and I hate it. Okay, because I've never seen more BS be blasted out on that thing than I've seen on that Nextdoor app. Now, I have my administrative lieutenant. He will generally answer a lot of people on there. He will front people out on there. And we'll ask, hey, you put this out. We're here to ask you what this is all about. And then we don't get any answers. So a lot of that, they're running pictures from 5 years ago, whatever else, just trying to get a rise out of people. Now, I'm not saying that everything is like that, because we've also have good tips that come out of that. So that's why I do have my administrative lieutenant kind of reach out from time to time just to make sure. But most of the time when people actually have something happen to them, they come and they report it to us. They don't just post it out there and don't come to us at all and just, you know. So we can't do anything for you if we don't know about it either. So again, good and bad with that next door neighbor app. Just you got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt, okay? So, and you know, I caution you too with social media, everything on there seems to be negative. So I have to take a break from Facebook a lot of the times because a lot of it's BS, bots, you know, you hear about that stuff, you know, it's meant to get a reaction out of you, generally negative. So I truly hope that you feel safe with what I have for you. I don't want you to not feel safe based on what you're seeing in some social media posts, okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please. Of course you can.
As a senior woman,
Yes.
is it safe for me to go to Smith's after dark?
There is a little bit of communication through the community that there have been some purse snatchings and things going on at our local Smith store, and that's why we're getting these questions. Yeah. Now, I have talked with the manager, Jason, and I've been told by residents that sometimes their cameras are not the best, and that's a corporate decision, that's not a local manager decision. But we had this same question come up a few months ago when DA Wolfson was here and Captain Sims, and it was kind of the same thing. Some of it's blown out of proportion because it's hearsay. It's like the old game of telephone. And by the time it gets to the end, it's not anything like it was when the crime happened. So I'm not so sure. I'm not saying she's not right because I have heard that there have been incidents there.
No, and again, here's what I'll tell you. I have not gotten anything across my desk that has said that there's been some type of increase. Like I get stuff on the daily. And then once a week, I sit down with my lieutenants and I sit down with my executive staff and we look and see, okay, what's going on around town. You know, purse snatches, things like that, those are going to catch my eye a lot quicker because this is Summerlin. We we kind of pride ourselves on having a low number of that. So when something like that happens, even if it's one or two, I'm usually going to hear about it. So I have not heard about that specifically. However, I'm going to have my guys go over there. We have a good relationship with most of the businesses here in town. We're going to do another site assessment. Big thing is really lighting. Lighting will usually take care of a lot of things, and we put that on the businesses. We'll go out, we'll do site checks, we'll do site assessments on all properties and be like, hey, here's ways that you can make it safer and make it feel more secure. So, lighting. Yeah, not lightning. Yeah.
Captain Joe, what are those
Lighting.
things called? The Metro has their little like kiosks with that tall pole.
Oh, the crime cameras? Yes.
Are those effective? Do they deter?
It's a deterrent for sure, and businesses can get their own. It's not just through ours. We can link it, they can purchase their own and link through. A lot of them have done that.
Are they expensive?
For a business, I think.
Well, I think the shopping center at Lake Mead and Rampart, which is a very busy shopping center, and they care about their patrons.
Ben?
I don't know if you guys know, but that is actually Smith's corporate store for all of these Smiths. I have a personal relationship with almost all of the staff that works upstairs there. I will reach out to them.
That's fantastic.
I work directly
Yeah.
with, who just got recently promoted, even higher. I'll get with her and we'll get with our crime prevention specialist and we'll see if we can get a new site assessment just to confirm if there are any issues like that.
And I did talk
That's
to a
fantastic.
woman who was a victim. This was a few months ago. I wanted her to come to one of our NPT meetings and explain to everyone what happened to her. You need to hear it from the person themselves so they can tell you what happened. But what she told me was she made the one mistake that almost all women make. She left her purse in the cart.
Yes.
And she turned her back, but only for a second. And you don't realize that's all it takes. But with her, it was a little worse because they got her whole purse, which meant they had her car keys, which meant they had her key fob. And they went through the parking lot trying to find, oh, Janice, you're here. You know exactly who I'm talking about because you told me about her. And to find her car so they could steal her car. So the best advice I give to everyone when we have neighborhood watch meetings, and Manny's really good about helping us with all of this, is please do not take your purse into the store. Put your wallet in a pocket or carry a shoulder bag or something small. Do not leave anything in the cart because you're thinking it's only for a second, but it only takes these young kids a millisecond before they have what you've left in the cart.
Yep. No. And
Good advice.
just for you guys, this is Ben. This is one of my COP officers.
He was at Sun City Night
Yes,
Out, so
I
if you
think most of you guys
recognize him,
know.
he was at the party.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, that I think you should feel safe going shopping wherever you want to go, and I believe that it is safe there. But we're going to have Ben use the connection. That's why we do is we have good contacts with every a lot of business owners, and so site assessments, site checks. I think it's going to be fine there. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
If you do decide to leave your purses in the car, please don't
Put it in the
leave them
trunk.
on the seat.
Put him in the trunk,
That happens all the time, and
out of view.
these little devices will break that window in less than a half a second, and they will grab your stuff out of that car too. So keep it on your shoulder if you're going to bring it.
All right, finally it's your turn.
Okay, good. I just want to go back to judges. And the reason is, I'd like your opinion as to why they are not appointed by a legal service. We have lots of lawyers in your office that could recommend really good judges.
And become judges. many of them.
Yes, and don't make us vote for people who end up becoming idiots.
So your
We
question
had
is,
several.
why don't we appoint judges rather than elect, okay? Many states and many jurisdictions have rules that call for the appointment rather than the election of judges. So I've been in the justice community here for 43 years. For about the first 35 to 37 years, I was in favor of elections. Let me tell you why. Everybody starts at the same point. You file, you raise money, you work hard, and hopefully you get elected. until the last cycle in 2020, okay? A number of very good judges who raised good money and were campaigning got defeated by people who didn't do much at all. And I'm not going to name names, but there's some people on the bench that shouldn't be on the bench. And there's only a few, thank God. Most of our judges are very good. So I, in 2020, was asked my opinion about that issue, and I changed my mind. I think that we should consider moving to a system, and there's a variety, there's different hybrids of appointing, there's retention elections. I'm in favor of doing something than straight elections, okay? Because we made some mistakes last cycle. That's my personal opinion.
My name is Patty, and fairly new resident here in Sun City, about 2.5 years. I'd like to know where we stand on the residential home break-ins. Are they on the rise, the decline? Do we maintain a certain level? Has it gone away? If you could address that, appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So here in Sun City specifically, or in the Summerlin area altogether? What would you like? Because I can give you kind of this.
Sun City, I'm more concerned with because that's my community.
All right, same answer for both. Burglaries, home break-ins, we'll just call them burglaries for what they're, you know, when I look at it from a statistical standpoint, down, and have been down repeatedly. And I think a lot of why that's happening, and that's very good news, especially for property-related crime. Generally, those are kind of like this. We're seeing a very steady decline. And what I think is playing a big role, especially out here in Sun City, is the contacts we have made. So I started, I wouldn't call it a program, but it's just a kind of a shift in the culture of how my guys and girls are going out there and doing their jobs. You know, there's a time and place for hard and heavy, you know, going in, swarming, putting people, you know, just coming in hard and heavy, right? A lot of cars, a lot of visibility and all that. Time and a place for that. However, what I've kind of trying to get out there right now is, and I'm going to just use my father, you know, just give me a couple minutes on this, so just, if you don't mind. So, how many of you are from Chicago? Okay. So, I was born and raised there. My father was a Chicago copper for 30 years, and he was there from 67 to 97. And he worked an area of town, kind of by University of Illinois, Chicago, Maxwell Street. So the Maxwell Street Market, and then that it's like basically, for those of you who don't know, it's like a 2-3 block, basic, for lack of a better word, like mall, if you will. You know, just lots of different shops, lots of different ethnicities. It's just a melting pot of everything. And it's not there anymore, unfortunately. The university took all of it over. But when it was there, it was bustling. I mean, you had 200,000 people, 300,000 people on that street daily. And so my dad, he walked that beat. He walked a beat on Maxwell Street for almost his entire 30-year career. And that man knew everything about everybody on that street. And they could come to him if they, you know, when there were issues. So it worked marvelously. Like I said, I mean, he knew everything about there, you know, in a 30-year career. So what I kind of put forward to my lieutenants to kind of bring it down the line to my people was, look, I want to kind of get back to that old style of policing. You know, the guys, we have sectors, we have sector beats, you know, different little areas that are broken down. Now, the guys are not specifically tied to that so much. You know, they can take calls in all the areas of Summerlin, but they do hold call signs, and they hold little specific areas where they're kind of supposed to be at. So I've kind of taken them to task a little bit, like, look, take ownership of your specific areas, know it and love it. You know, when you take something as your own, you're going to care for it more. And what I want these guys to do is when, we see a person walking down the street, you get out of your car, walk up, say hello, introduce yourself, say the couple walking their dog or whatever. Get back to that type of policing. We don't always have to be stopping people for things that they're doing bad or they're breaking the law or something like that. Find people, go talk with people, have chats, give them your number, make that connection. And that worked very well for my dad. Now, that was before cell phone stuff, so he could get things directly to him. But what I'm expecting for my guys really is to kind of go back to that type of policing where we're truly ingrained with the people we serve and going out there and just making those contacts, making those connections. We call it source development, but it's not, you're not like a confidential informant. You're just a part of the community. So hopefully what I had started is working, I think. Kind of happened, I got the idea kind of through my dad, of course, but then through people here. Because I was approached by some of the security patrol and they'd asked, hey, we had one guy that used to work here, Casey. He retired and he used to kind of work this area. Well, once he retired, there was kind of that vacuum where we didn't really have anybody coming around too much. So, and specifically on Graveyard, really. So this guy had asked, hey, is there anybody that, you can have swing by? Because I'd like to at least have some type of contact with somebody. If I see something, I want to be able to call somebody. And that's how this whole thing started. So with that contact, I think that we've got more buy-in, especially from people around here. And that's why, long roundabout way, I believe that's why our crime is going down, just because of that partnership that we have with you.
So let me add something, talking about what Captain Joe's talking about, community involvement. I'm a big bicyclist. I became a bicyclist 3 years ago, so these two kids picked the wrong DA to do what they did. But I ride in Sun City, and I ride on the street, I'm not sure if I remember the name, Via Alaquendo or something, which starts way on the east side of Sun City and goes, Villa Ridge. There you go. And it goes all the way out there. It's 3, 4, 5 miles, it seems. Great ride, residential, no cars. And when I ride that, I see the Sun City patrols in the golf carts, which is fantastic. I think it adds more of a deterrent. Plus the communication between the residents and the people that are patrolling. So all of those efforts at community engagement and engaging with your police, it all helps. So how about one more question?
Hey, Captain, real quick question. How is recruitment? Is the police force fully manned? And how is the pay compared to other areas?
All right, so recruitment going well. We're doing much, much better. We just graduated a class of 44 yesterday. So that's good. We're hoping with the next class, we're hoping to get somewhere around 80 or 90. So if we can get that 80 or 90, we will then be basically fully staffed. We're just about 4% below right now, which is, you always want to be fully staffed, sure, but that actually is a very good number compared to a lot of other cities, let me tell you. So pay-wise, I think we're competitive among everybody in the country. We are the best police department in the country, by far. And I think, pay-wise, pay, benefits, and everything that comes along with it, we're right up there for sure, so.
And some of the cities in the country are mad because you are recruiting from the cities that defunded the police.
Yes.
My sister just moved outside of Portland, Oregon, and her homeowner's insurance was cut in half when she left the county of Multnomah, which Portland is in it. So when your insurance drops in half, you know what is happening with crime. I'd like to add 2 things to both gentlemen's presentations. I want to thank the DA for coming back. And when he was here in March, we had this discussion about judges, and I vowed that I would find a way to bring information on judicial candidates to you. I am still working on that. Like he said, they're not actually registering to run for office till January, but I'm hoping we can put something together that would be almost like a small Sun City Summerlin voters pamphlet. And so I will do some of the background work. If any of you can volunteer, you don't have to come to a meeting. You don't have to, spend 3 hours in a meeting like we did yesterday. If you can do stuff at home or you can do research on the internet, we'll give you a candidate and you do some of the research for us and document it. We also are going to rely on the Review Journal. And actually Dick Clark, board member Dick Clark, has some things that he's used for a couple of years, and so we're going to call on him to give us those secret things. So hopefully we will be able to offer to the judicial candidates a forum to come here, and those who don't show up, what? They don't get your vote, right? So that's one plan. Number two, anybody who's here who is not in a neighborhood watch in Sun City, or if you don't know if you're in a neighborhood watch and you want to be in a neighborhood watch, we will have forms out on the outside table. We encourage you all to join the Neighborhood Watch program, even if you think there's not a lot of crime. You won't believe what you will learn and how you will get to know your neighbors. Once you know your neighbors, then it's much better. I think I can speak from a lot of people I'm seeing here today who are neighborhood watch captains that will agree with you. And I've got a lot of people helping in the neighborhood watch area. We just had a captain's meeting, and we'll have another one in April. The last thing I want to mention was something that I found on the, I surf the LVMPD Facebook page daily. And I will send it to Mitzi and ask Mitzi to send it out to the community by e-blast and maybe even put it in the next edition of the Link magazine, which will come out December 1st, or yeah, the next one will come out December 1st. And it's a project between LVMPD and the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Office. And you've all heard it. It's called See Something, Say Something. But now, with Formula One and the Super Bowl coming, there is a reorganized effort to get people to please call this number. And it's really simple to remember the number because it's 702-828-7777, which is SSSS. So you won't remember it, but there is a graphic that I took off the Facebook page, and I can send that to Mitzi, and we can get it out in MeBlast. But you need to be using that. And I was talking to Ben about the fact that that's a better place if you're going to go down on the strip and you have company in town, or you're roaming around town and you see something that's not quite 911. You don't want to bother 911 if it belongs somewhere else. So if you send it to this number, they will know whether it needs to go to Metro or not. They will know what to do with it. But I think all of us just need to be more aware of our surroundings. And this See Something, Say Something number is terrific. And all I did was put it in my phone under See Something, Say Something. So I would like to thank both of you. You've done a tremendous job. This is a tough group. And maybe we can get these two gentlemen to come back when the judge candidates
So
show up.
here's what I was going to say. Next spring, next year actually, is a election cycle, okay? I'm not up next year, but I would volunteer to come out, because I've done this years past, and facilitate a discussion with the judges. Be the moderator, ask them the questions.
Wow.
I've done that before, and it's effective, because I know the kind of right questions to ask.
Oh, wow.
right,
Okay,
thank
you
you
guys.
all.
You heard it from him. We're going to make him pay up. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much for everything.